Dune, Part 2 cuts out Paul and Chani's child from its storyline, and, from the looks of it, it does the right thing, especially because of one book change. Like its predecessor, Denis Villeneuve's Dune 2 takes several creative liberties to traverse Frank Herbert's work to the big screen. For instance, the sequel film avoids taking a 2-year time jump like its source and does not even address the aftermath of Paul killing Jamies in the first Dune movie. Paul's sister in Dune, Alia Atreides, also has a relatively smaller role in the film and remains unborn throughout its runtime. Even Phaedrotha's demise plays out differently in the source material, making the film's version far more gruesome. However, one of the biggest changes from the books in Dune 2 is that it completely removes Paul and Chani's first child. While this potentially deviates several other story arcs from the source material, it serves the film's narrative cohesion and also supports another big book change surrounding Chani's characterization. Dune 2 including Paul and Chani's child wouldn't have fit her movie arc. Changes in Chani's characterization made it impossible for Dune 2 to include her child. Often, books have more room for side stories and subplots that do not necessarily impact their overarching storylines. Movies, on the other hand, have limited runtimes, and there is only so much they can show in a single sitting. Owing to this, even though Paul and Chani's child was a part of the original book, including him in the movie might have prevented it from focusing on other important aspects of the story. As Dune, Part 2's co-writer, John Spates, explained, Chani and Paul's child is abruptly introduced in the Frank Herbert book, and even his departure is quick and sudden. While this serves some purpose in the original storyline, the movie could only focus on the more crucial bits of its source instead of including every story element. Dune, Part 2 is 2 hours 46 minutes long. Adding another character to the mix would have further bloated its runtime, potentially diluting the impact of other pivotal moments and plot points in the film. Even from a storytelling standpoint, Chani and Paul's son's inclusion may not have been a good fit for the film's overarching narrative, considering the changes it brings to Chani's Dune characterization. In the book, Paul and Chani's son, Leto, is instrumental in strengthening their bond. In many ways, he becomes a symbol of continuity and commitment to their togetherness and relationship. Villeneuve's Dune, Part 2, in contrast, portrays Chani as a voice of reason against the Bene Gesserit and Stilgar's belief systems. Although she falls for Paul, her love does not hold her back from questioning the Lisan al-Gaib prophecy and exploring her own beliefs. Owing to these changes, using Leto as a plot device to bring Paul and Chani closer would have felt forced and cliché in Dune, Part 2. Dune 2 would have struggled to include Paul and Chani's son even without changing her story. Dune, Part 2's nearly perfect story would have had some evident flaws with Leto's inclusion. Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya in Dune 2 custom image by Debanjana Chowdhury. If Dune, Part 2 had included Paul and Chani's son, it likely would have struggled to balance its other story elements with the introduction and resolution of Leto's arc. As a result, Dune 2 might have had pacing issues due to the new characters' involvement, diminishing the overall quality of the entire film. For audiences, it is also easier to connect well with characters having a more meaningful role in the overarching storyline. With Leto, Dune 2 would have risked introducing a character whose significance might have remained unrealized and felt tacked on. By adding another character to its massive roster, Dune, Part 2 would also have significantly increased its budget. Including another character would have made sense if they were more relevant to the book changes introduced in the film. However, since Leto's involvement would not have added any more heft to Chani's story in Dune 2, the sequel was better off without him.